How you doing, YouTube? Fix or repair daily. Actually not the case with this car. Ford Focus 1 litre Ecoboost. 10 years old, 100,000 miles, due for its wet belt. Did have the oil light flickering on, so we knew that it was breaking down, so it was a get it done as soon as those first signs were seen. Now cracking on with it. I'll whip the camera around and I'll show you a couple of other little things that people aren't talking about, and it's very important. Right, so we're all familiar with the 1 litre Ecoboost and its wet belt. Won't go into massive detail with it. You obviously know you've got to unblock the oil pump and all of that. There's plenty of videos online, so I'll skip over that. You can search them. The Daco belts have been revised slightly. The teeth have a resin on them from Ford, and this breaks down. And the Daco belts don't have this, okay? It's more of an exposed weave. There's a lot less resin to break down. I'm sure it will, but there's a lot less to break down. I still think that this outside is going to break down, and oddly it does have perforations in the coating. So it seems like over time this will crack and degrade, and it's naturally going to particulate itself all over the engine, which is great, isn't it? I think it's heat that's doing this. The reason why I think it's heat is because the outside of the belt and the inside of the belt is degrading on the main timing belt, but the oil pump, which is mostly submerged in oil, is in good condition, and these belts are the same age. Now surely, if it was just an oil issue, the one that is bathed in oil almost constantly and 100% would be the one that would degrade the most. The one that's getting splashed wouldn't be. But this is just getting splashed, and this is just getting really hot. So I think a combination of the extreme heat and the oil finishes these belts off a lot sooner than what Ford would suggest, because looking at this one at 100,000 miles and nearly 11 years old, you would suggest that this could quite easily do the 150,000 miles. Be a fair assumption on its quality and the condition of it. There's no signs of real fatigue. It's a good belt. So heat is going to be affecting these. It also backs the theory up that it runs a very hot engine because they keep popping expansion bottles and they crack underneath and then they fail. So you replace those. But there's another issue with this that people aren't addressing, and that's the brake failure. And I'll explain why. The servo is vacuum operated to assist your brake pedal to make your brakes easy to push. Without it, your brakes are solid, and it's incredibly hard to attempt to stop the car. So people are calling it brake failure when it's really just extremely hard to push brake pedal. It's not brake failed, it's just you can't really put enough human force into the brake pedal to really stop the car efficiently. Okay, which is a surprise when you're used to a nice soft pedal, you know, firm to press pedal but easy to push. And then all of a sudden it's rock solid and you can't stop the car. Now, braking systems are handled in 3 ways. Well, 4 ways really. Non-assisted, old style. Servo-assisted with vacuum, which either takes off the plenum, uses a pump, a mechanical pump seal, electric pump, or mechanical pump. Now, this here is your vac pump. That attaches to your brake servo, so the pump running off the cams is creating a vacuum to suck on that diaphragm to help your brakes work, but it's oil fed. Inside this is a blade with 2 carbon tips on, which slip out, which then moves oil around, which then creates a vacuum on this, sucking this one-way valve. Okay, so you're getting a sucking action on this, which sucks the brake servo when the engine's running. Okay, now this has to be full of oil to work. It simply isn't a tight tolerance. It has no seals, so there isn't any way of creating a vacuum without having the oil viscosity moving around and oil moving around, and that's how this operates. Now, if I take this off, there is an oil feed which has a gauze. You guessed it, the belt blocks it. That causes brake failure. So it's your vac pump failing, being starved of oil, which will cause brake failure. Okay, even when you've changed your belt and you've cleaned your pump out, this is still going to be blocked if you don't take this off as well and clean this out. my advice, I've taken this out. I had debris both sides. I had it inside here on this back of this cover, and I had it on in that gauze there. So I've cleaned it all up, taken it, and thought, oh, I'll do a YouTube video on this because, well, people aren't doing this, they need to know. So that being fed with the turbo to the turbo also causes some turbo issues, which I'll go on to now. So you've got your braking issue, but it also has a problem with turbos. This little valve on here has a diaphragm because it's a sucking valve, not a blowing valve. Okay, so the vac pump sucks on it, same as it does for the brakes, and it has a diaphragm inside here which deteriorates and then breaks. That then feeds oil down the tube it's supposed to suck from into the actuator hose, okay, which runs round, and you've got one hose coming from the plenum inlet, so it's sucking on here, it's supposed to suck through here to then suck on the actuator, but instead it fills the actuator full of oil. This prematurely ages the actuator on the turbo. The actuator then starts dripping oil down the shaft onto the red hot area of the turbo, which could potentially cause a fire. So my advice is to take this off and replace this as well. I would suggest this is almost like a service item, to be fair. You've also got a diaphragm, your boost pressure diaphragm vacuum, which also runs off the same and off the inlet manifold, and that is known to split and kill your boost pressure. So you can replace all of these parts while you're doing all of this, take your turbo off, give it all a good check and clean out, and you'll have no more problems. So you've got your valve, one-way valve here that allows oil to bypass through the system and then go into your turbo actuator that then leaks onto your exhaust effectively, and that needs looking at. And you need to make sure you unblock the gauze so your brakes can function properly when you're doing your belt. Hope this has helped. Let me know in the comments. Cheers.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.